Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the video and another episode of Dump and Chase. Over this past week, we just keep inching closer to the Olympics and the trade deadline, in which we saw two big trades go down: the Andersson trade, the Sherwood trade. Jonathan Toews comes back to Edmonton. Some guys being injured, but some coming off the injury side, and goalie fights. Well, not plural, singular, but still exciting. Of course, a bunch of other news coming here. So we're going to talk about all of that. But before we get into that, make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell, comment. I want to hear what all of you have to say. I'm always interested, so let me know what you think about the current NHL state, where you think some guys are going to go, and much, much more. But let's not take up any more time. Let's get right into the video. So let's start off with the Rasmus Andersson trade. Yeah, probably the biggest trade from this past weekend and really this past week since we last spoke. And yeah, to the Vegas Golden Knights, probably a team that most people didn't want him to go to. Of course, there were a couple of other rumored teams, the biggest one being the Boston Bruins. And you know what? Look, at the end of the day, before we get right into this trade, like I never really felt Boston was going to pull the trigger on that. You know, I heard the Mason Lohrei first and probably some other things going around there. I wasn't convinced that, one, they weren't going to do it without an extension, but also that it was worth their time. The Boston Bruins, I find, are in a very good spot right now. They've committed to some type of retool. They've been very good this year. I think better than expected to be at this point in time, if you were to guess. And I felt like going to get Rasmus Andersson, who's 29, he's a good player. You probably would have gotten a 7-8 year extension. I'm not exactly sure what he would have wanted, but in this case, yeah, if you're going to do that, you get the extension. But for the Bruins, I wasn't liking the idea of giving up your future for someone in Rasmus Andersson. I don't think the Bruins are in a spot where they can go win a cup, even if they go get Rasmus Andersson or not. You can have those dream runs and those lucky goals come along for you to get to those spots, but I just never really liked that. But the Bruins were the highest team that was rumored to be there. But it sounded like literally on the Sunday that Vegas just came in here. They said, look, we've always been interested. We're looking to find someone to take that spot of where Pietrangelo was, and Rasmus Andersson fits that bill in the top four so well. They go and do that, and it ends up being Zach Whitecloud, Abraham Wiebe, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick, which is conditional. Now, the condition on that pick is if Vegas wins the Cup this season, which will upgrade to a 2028 first-round pick, meaning that, quite literally, the Calgary Flames could have 3 first-round picks from the Vegas Golden Knights in the next 3 years. That being this year, they already have that from the Hanifin trade. Next year, which they just got in this. And then if they win the Cup, turns into a first, and they now have 3 first-round picks. Not bad by Craig Conroy and company. Now, do I think Vegas is going to win the Cup? They have a very good chance. I don't think they do. That wouldn't be my pick right now. However, it's an interesting trade. Look, for Vegas, you have a good enough team where you can get to that point. This isn't the Boston Bruins that I was talking about before. I think that Vegas is a lot more well set up for this, and I think that with Andersson coming in, this definitely makes it easier on the goaltending. And guys like Adin Hill, if he can find his game again, then you're fine. And then you also have Carter Hart there. I'm not sure if they're going to do that tandem type thing. We'll see, because he is hurt right now. But yeah, Vegas is in an interesting spot where, one, and I'll just get this out of the way now before I forget to even talk about it, I do think there is an extension in place, right? There was a mutual liking between these two last season, or I guess really in the offseason last year. And now you have Rasmus Andersson, 50%, gives you more, 50% retained, gives you more space to go and make some other moves. I think that depth, maybe on the forward side, would be the best spot for them. Because William Karlsson is out. They don't know how long. They haven't put him on IR and ruled him out to get that cap space, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Vegas is in a spot where now they've addressed probably the biggest and glaring need on their team, which was replacing Pietrangelo and really shaping out that top four again. But now when you look at the Vegas Golden Knights, you say, okay, now you got to transition to the forward side. I think like a middle 6 to bottom 6 forward, maybe like a third line center would be best. Because remember, over this past offseason, they got Mitch Marner, but that was in a trade for Nick Waugh. And he's a good 3, 4 center, depending on how you want to look at it. Now, they replaced out with Colton Sissons, so really just a third-line center. He can play higher up in the lineup if he wants, but that spot was then taken over by William Karlsson. He's now hurt. Now, Vegas doesn't have that versatility, right? You still have Jack Eichel, you still have Tomas Hertl, and you have Mitch Marner somehow in the middle. It's been fine, I guess, down the middle, but yeah, like you are definitely in a spot where you don't want to be using your team like this. So Vegas is in a very interesting area where now they can still make some moves and they still have some pieces to kind of flaunt out and say like, hey, we got this. But then there's the Calgary Flames. I really do like this trade for them. I never hated what they have done with their free agents. I think yet again they've done their fans right. Zach Whitecloud, he's 28. You could still use him in the future. He's a pretty stable, reliable defenseman. He does his job well. Doesn't really cause much mistake. And you also get a first and a second round pick. You get a project in Abraham right here. He's fine. Like, again, this is more of a flyer type of prospect. But yeah, like I think they came out well in this trade. I think it's pretty much a win-win both sides. I would probably lean more for Calgary, but that's just ever so slightly. I think in my grades it was like a B+ to an A. A being for Calgary, B+ to Vegas. Might have actually been a B, but either way, very close. I think it's very even. Not mad about it at all. But then there was another trade, and this was Kiefer Sherwood, who was sent to the San Jose Sharks, of all teams, for a second-round draft pick in 26 and 27, as well as Cole Clayton. Now, this one is a little bit more different. I would definitely lean more to the Vancouver side here. They were looking to possibly get him extended, but then they had that realization in this team that it's not going to work. And I think that was a very smart move by Patrick Allvin and company. They get a second-round pick in 26 and 27 for San Jose, which should be decently high. And we'll get into why it could be or could not be for San Jose and why this trade might actually be good and bad. But yeah, for the Vancouver Canucks, I think, again, a team cashing in on a expiring UFA who's been good this year. Already has 17 goals, 23 points. He hits a lot. He's a physical presence, and he seems like to be a good guy in the locker room. So, you always want those guys on your team when it comes to something like this. Now, let's get into the San Jose side. I was a little bit confused, I'll be honest, because I always knew that interest was there and that they could just trade for him. But for San Jose, the positive is that the West is wide open, and you have a chance to possibly make playoffs. Like Macklin Celebrini has been on an absolute tear this year. Quite possibly might get the Hart Trophy if they continue like this. If they miss the playoffs by ever so slightly, I think that's definitely a trophy he should be up in the names for. If they make the playoffs, it might be even more of a guarantee that he gets it as long as he keeps that point production going. So you add him in there. Could be a good middle six guy. Physical presence, again, good. Can score. Not bad at all. And again, very wide open. San Jose's been good. They've definitely been above expectations. And Mike Greer, his moves have definitely been 50-50 for me sometimes. Better over the last couple of years than before. But, then there's the bad. And I look at this and I say, did we really need to give up 2 second-round picks to go and get this guy? And plus another a player in Cole Clayton? I don't think so. Like, look, for San Jose, I would have liked to see how you could go over this next bit, because look, San Jose could just, we know it's very possible in a team like this that has risen way above expectation that they could just go right down into the toilet, and they could be sellers. Not to say that they can't just do that and go and sell on them, but it definitely is confusing when you have a 30-year-old here. You bring him in, maybe for a veteran presence and his scoring or whatever, his physicality. But I never really, I looked at this and I said, was this needed, right? Like, yeah, you do have your prospects. You still have a bunch of picks, right? Like, it's not the end of the world when it comes to a trade like this. But I don't know, maybe I would have rather to use this later on and see what I could have gotten from it. look, if they get an extension done here, and I'm assuming it could be a 2 to 3 year deal, maybe a higher AAV, then it's not as bad, right? You still keep the guy around, you show commitment, and you're not just giving up 2 draft picks and a player for half, maybe a season of a guy for a year that you might not even make playoffs. Again, wide open, but you never know. So, yeah, it was a little bit confusing that way. I did definitely lean more Vancouver, not to say that I hate the move outright for San Jose, but there are concerns. There's positives and negatives to this, right? And you do have to weigh that when it comes to something like this. It's not a crazy move. But look, they liked him before. They go and got a player that they liked, and you can't hate that. I like that the Vancouver Canucks are selling. I would love to see what they could do on the sides of, Connor Garland, possibly Thatcher Demko, because this is his last year of where it's team control on his contract versus the next 3 years that they just gave him at $8.5 million, where he's going to be, no movement clause for him. So, again, we'll see how a couple of those things go. Even Elias Pettersson, who has the no movement clause going right now, he's been playing better. But, yeah. So, look, 2 of those guys off my trade board right now. So number 1 and number 5 already off the trade board. And we'll go over this quickly because it is an extensive board. Artemi Panarin, I made a video on him of where I think he could go. Carolina would probably be my highest choice. But again, I would like to see them go and get a center first. I think a lot of teams are looking for centers. But Carolina, if they want to make that next jump and be competitive with some of these other teams, I think that's where they need to go. But Artemi Panarin, I think he could go there. I also said the LA Kings and the Buffalo Sabres. I know Buffalo kind of crazy, but they've been so good. They could use some veteran presence in scoring. Plus, Jarmo Kekalainen, he's traded for him once. Could do it again. Nazem Kadri, again, everyone needs centers. Calgary selling. I wouldn't be surprised if he fetched a ton. Steven Stamkos, same thing. You play on the center or wing. Dougie Hamilton. We'll get into this next, or maybe not next, because we're going to talk about Toews next. But we'll get into why he might not be sold just yet, because Luke Hughes, he gets hurt. But yeah, he's still a good puck-moving defenseman who teams would want to have on their team. Blake Coleman, I think things have kind of fizzled out a bit on that side of the market. I think there was a lot of talks about a team like Montreal. It seems like that's not happening too much now. Elias Pettersson is another guy who we just mentioned. If he agrees to waive, you're going to get a boatload for this guy. But again, his choice, preference on where he wants to go if they're going to sell him might hinder everything a bit. Luke Schenn makes a ton of sense. He could play in your bottom pair. There's a lot of teams that could benefit from his experience and his physicality. Robert Thomas, and you see it on the comment right here, I don't know if Thomas is going anywhere. That's very true, Mason. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but there are a couple names on here that, considering that Armstrong said nothing's off the table, if you sell Robert Thomas right now, even though he's 26 years old and he's so good, I love his game, you would get a ton considering what the market is right now for centers. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but when it comes to possibility, if you're going to sell, that's a big piece. Connor Garland, same thing. Physical, can score, seems to show up in big moments. Jordan Binnington, Braden Shen, Justin Falk, all of these guys from the Blues. We just talked about that, why it makes sense. I don't mind I don't hate any of the ideas for them. I think goaltending is a big thing. I think if Binnington goes somewhere else in a stable decor, it'll be a lot better. Braden Shen, their asking price is pretty high, but he's still good. He's still physical. He wins face-offs. He can still contribute. Justin Falk, there shouldn't be really much explanation for him. Good defenseman, can play in the top 4 and does. He's a good puck-moving defenseman, smart, experienced. Connor Murphy, physical, experience, can play on that bottom pair for sure. For most playoff teams, he probably would be maybe in that top 4 role, depending on how they want to mix up those duos. But yeah, he's there too. Chicago doesn't seem like they're going to be pushing for anything too far in the future here, or too near in the future. Mangiapane, I mean, that's been kind of rumored for a while. And I again, haven't heard really much about him and the situation there, but wouldn't be surprised if he's moved at the deadline. Boone Jenner, we'll see how that one kind of goes. Columbus, they've been better since adding Rick Bowness in, but if they continue to slide, again, really shallow center market wouldn't be the worst idea to go and see what you can get for a pretty good player like that. Michael Bunting and Ryan O'Reilly on Nashville. They've been better over the last bit, and we'll go back to Stamkos as well. If they think they can make playoffs, then this isn't even like the worst idea of just keeping them. Just to see and then selling, right? They're treating Ryan O'Reilly like he has a no movement clause. I've kind of given my thoughts on that before. Michael Bunting, I think, could be a very interesting piece for a lot of teams to bring in. He kind of adds a little bit of an annoying factor for the other side. He can score if put in the right positions. And then there's Logan Stanley, who's having a really nice year. He's going to need a new contract. He is physical. His point productions actually went up, which is crazy to think about when you talk about his past and goals and everything. So for him, I'm excited to see what happens, because I think Winnipeg could actually get a decent haul for him. We'll see what that could be if they trade him. But yeah, no, I'm interested to know what could go on there. But yeah, so that's my trade board right now. Of course, 1 and 5 on this board were taken away this weekend, and Rasmus Andersson and Kiefer Sherwood. I expect a lot more of these names to dissipate off this board as the couple weeks get going here up into the Olympics, and then after, it will be interesting, and I'm excited for that. But I wanted to touch on this point quickly. So the Winnipeg Jets visited the Chicago Blackhawks. Normally, we wouldn't really have much to say on a game like this, considering it was a 2-0 shutout for Chicago. Shutout to Spencer Knight, makes 32 saves. But this was pretty special. Jonathan Toews, his return to Chicago, which is, again, crazy when you think about how he had to come back and get back into the NHL, get himself right. And, man, was it a very, very welcomed return for him. I want to say it was maybe 2 minutes of a standing O for him. He had to take about 5-6 more laps after he thought everything was done. He kind of said, well, it looked like he said it was a little bit too much. Like, please, and he's so humble in that way. But you can tell how much Jonathan Toews meant to the Blackhawks organization, and fans. He did so much for them. How good of a player he was through their runs, and just throughout his career in Chicago was absolutely insane. And yeah, I mean, it was, I'm not gonna say I was emotional, but you look at that and you say, like, wow, that was cool. That was really cool. And I can only imagine how that felt for Toews. And, Winnipeg, they've been on, they had a couple of games here where they won, but for the most part have been on a decent slide. They lose Chicago just with getting Bedard back not too long ago. It was a very interesting night. You talk about the past and the present for Chicago, looking back on both, especially with both being centers. So it was a very interesting night. Wanted to touch on that. Didn't get to watch it live. Blackouts, awful stuff. But got to see the highlights there in the video of him getting honored in the game. Really special. Very cool. But now I want to get into one specific really a specific aspect for this, and it is the injury bug that we're seeing here in the NHL. And we'll start off with Luke Hughes, who he was injured. He suffered just awful stuff, but a separated shoulder against the Calgary Flames. Now, this kind of brings in a couple of different things for the New Jersey Devils. Now, if you weren't aware, the New Jersey Devils are trying to trade a guy in Dougie Hamilton. We've talked about this a little bit. He is $9 million, not just this year, but for the next 2 years. He has injury troubles. His consistency is definitely a big thing. They've been trying to move him. Teams are interested, of course, but now you have this injury, pretty big, depending on how long he's going to be out for. But he's going to miss some time. That's not even a question. And, like Sheldon Keefe just says it right there. He's going to miss some time for sure. We probably won't see him for the rest of this road trip. No surprise. But yeah, now this kind of leaves you to know where is this going to go for the New Jersey Devils back end. So right now you still have Brendan Dillon, Brett Pesce, Siegenthaler, Kovacevic, who was activated recently, Simon Nemec, and of course Dougie Hamilton, who we just mentioned. likely that he won't get moved unless they find someone who's willing to take on his contract and will do that trade big time. Look, Hamilton is still a good defenseman. No one's arguing that, and I say good in the way that he can be on an NHL roster. He's not that bad. But, again, it's a lot of money. It seems like things have soured in New Jersey, and you kind of need to sit here and say, is it worth it right now, considering that the Devils want to make playoffs, to try and move him? Maybe just take, instead of chopping off the whole arm, you're chopping off the hand and saying, okay, look, we'll get back what we can, see if we can just fill that in, because, like, it's not like they're dealing with injuries, not much on the back end, but maybe we can salvage something. I don't think it's one of those areas where you say, yeah, like, we just need to get that contract off our roster right now. No, obviously not, because of what just happened. But it's something to keep an eye on. Tough for Luke Hughes, who hadn't been so impactful over the last bit. Maybe this offers him a chance to kind of reset. It's a long NHL season. We've seen so many injuries. And I think he's so much better than what he has shown, and we all know that. We've seen that. And I think that though the situation of what had happened is bad, hopefully this offers... he gets better. I hope he does. I hope he comes back quicker than expected, and he plays great. But hopefully this offers him some kind of time to himself and be mindful and be just kind of present. So it's hard for NHL players and athletes to do that all the time. Maybe that offers some type of area for him to do that. But continuing on with the injuries, John Cooper mentions that a couple of big guys on the blue line for the Tampa Bay Lightning are coming back. Now, does it feel like they need them to come back? Not really. I mean, what's crazy is that they were on, I want to say, an 11 or 12 game winning streak. They lose in, was it shootout to the St. Louis Blues of all teams? Then they just win again the next game. It's been a pretty good year for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But when we look at this defense core, I mean, let's be honest, it's not what you're usually used to. And we'll get into the talk right now of who they could be getting back. Ryan McDonough and Emily Lilleberg they're both skating. They've both been on the ice, and they're both nearing their return. Same as Victor Hedman, who is going to be skating a lot more now. He's going to be on the ice. And again, you don't need to rush these guys back. Things have been going well for the Lightning right now. Vasilevsky's playing well. You talk about Nikita Kucherov, Anthony Cirelli, Jay Gensel, and even a guy in Pontus Holmberg who's been great. It feels like he's been shipping in a lot more, and of course his defensive game has been good. But when we look at things like this, like the Lightning are injured. Of course, you're still missing Braden Point there, but a couple of big guys to get back, at least in the near future for the Lightning, to make that decor just as scary as you really think it is, and it definitely is. But yeah, so he offers a little bit of an update on that. Big news for the Lightning, who are already again doing well, could be doing a lot better if they get them back. Going from one Atlantic team to another, and it's William Nylander. He has a groin injury. He suffered that early in the game in Vegas after he made a nice couple plays. And now we have a couple of things to look in here. For the first one, it's William Nylander. Will he be able to return before the Olympics for the Maple Leafs? And second, if not, will he be going to the Olympics? Now, if you're not familiar with William Nylander's game, he's pretty good. Very dynamic, can create a lot of plays, can score. He's so good. And if you haven't gotten a chance to watch him too much in the NHL or just over a couple of games, I recommend it. He's some type of player. But this is a really tough issue because for William Nylander, right, this isn't the first time this season that this groin injury has come up for him again. This is the second time, which gets a little bit scary. Now, if you're not too familiar with groin injuries, they can be so wild in terms of the timeline. You could be out for a week, and that's it. You feel better, you stretch out, you're great, okay, awesome. Then, sometimes you get into a couple weeks, okay? It's an injury, right? You got to deal with it. But then, you get into months. And what's so scary about a groin injury is that you have to be so careful because it can flare up and now you're back to square one. You're back to square one. You're done. You got to restart. And that's what's so probably frustrating for a lot of athletes, and even William Nylander here, is that he got rid of that groin injury, felt great, acts up again. Okay, now you gotta put your hands up and say, okay, how am I feeling? Right? You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to start, doing sprints again or doing anything too strenuous, because you kind of have to go through that feeling process of where, okay, am I good to maybe skate today? Can I, is it okay to walk? That's a very, bad groin injury if that's the case, but you still have to go through that time. It's like, how do I feel with weight, right? Can I work out a little bit? Does it feel weird when I'm pushing up on a leg press or something like that, right? Anything that could be slightly strenuous is the biggest thing. And Jonas Siegel, he does a very good job covering the Leafs, but this is the one thing is February 11th. This is pretty close. You talk about it's the 20th of January right now when I film this. It is one thing that you need to keep in mind for William Nylander and the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? He's a big part of this team. Now, the Leafs have done fine without Nylander when he's been hurt and when he hasn't. But you do look at this and say, okay, not only for the Olympics, which many players, if you are selected to go, and the teams are selected now, you don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss a chance to represent your nation on the biggest stage in the world. Nobody wants to do that, or wants to miss that, sorry. Wants to do that. Nobody wants to miss that. So when you look at something like this, you have to say, okay, this is a little scary. How can I work my way back the safest way possible? Every player is going to do that, but how is your process? Is it going to be shorter? Is it going to be longer? Are you going to play a game, then take a game off, and then take a game again, right? Are you going to just do practices for a bit? Some injuries are just like that. We've seen that so many times this year because of the condensed schedule and because of how close things are. But yeah, for William Nylander, you need to balance that. And I don't think the Leafs would ever do this, or maybe they would, but considering where the Leafs are right now, they need Nylander. They need these wins. They need these points. And, you lose to Minnesota Wild yesterday. If you win that, you're tied for, I think, fourth in the Atlantic at 58 points. So when it comes to something like this, you say, if Nylander's injury is that bad, and you could possibly get him by the end of February, let's just say that, right? Do you have to make that, or at least have that tough conversation and say, look, we need you. If you go and you hurt yourself again, and it's the season, or if it's, let's just even say another month and a half, let's just say month, that's big. That's we're paying you this money to play, right? So again, it's a tough conversation you have to have. I don't know how many teams are going to have that conversation with some of their players if they're there. But it's one thing you have to keep in mind, and that's probably the scariest part for a player, is saying a team could shut you down. That's it, right? At the end of the day, it is kind of the player's choice, but the team also has a say. So with a lot of these injuries, this is how some things are right now. We'll keep an eye on that. But the last thing I wanted to get into, and I'm just going to touch on this quickly, is we had our first goalie fight for the first time in 6 years. Yes, and very unlikely too, between the San Jose Sharks and the Florida Panthers, who don't really play each other that much. They're not really rivals, but yeah, 14 minutes left in the third period, and Alex Nedeljkovic and Sergei Bobrovsky have a fight. Now, this all starts in the corner where I believe Vincent Desharnais, he gets just blasted into the boards. Big group, as you would expect, go in there to either fight for or fight against that hit. And Nedeljkovic saw that, didn't like it, went pretty much directly in after it happened. And it took a second for, I think, everyone to realize, but Bobrovsky, right down in the ice, he throws the gloves off. Not the mask yet, but he throws the gloves off, goes and grabs Nedeljkovic, and we have a goalie fight. Now, the fight was decently underwhelming. It wasn't this crazy fight, but it is so exciting to see, I think, as a hockey fan, because you just don't see it much. It's kind of like, oh, the carnival's in town, let's go check it out, because we only see it once a year. We haven't seen this in 6 years. So considering that this fight wasn't crazy, but was just rare, Yeah, it was pretty hype. And I want to touch on that because, look, the Panthers fans, they're chanting Bobby, and we don't get to see this much. How exciting is that? Again, this is just such a random topic, and there's not really much analysis to go into here. But yeah, last 6 years or 5 or 6 years, whatever it was, and we get a goalie fight. So nice to see. So nice to see. And we'll end off on that positive note. If you have not already, make sure you go like, subscribe, comment, ring that bell. I want to hear what all of you have to say because, again, if I miss something, if you want me to talk about something, let me know. I'm always willing to take advice, take some pointers from all of you, so how I can get better on here, make it more entertaining, and really hear the topics and things that not only I want to talk about, but you want to hear as well. So make sure you go and do all that fun stuff. But until next time, my name is Zach Staden, and we're going to be talking soon.